She came with hate in her eyes and rotten eggs in her hands. While Melody played beautiful piano music, the HOA boss did something awful. She threw eggs at this disabled girl. Now she's in jail for 12 years, and she deserves it. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more Karen stories. Your dog barked again. That's another violation. Victoria Harrington slammed a bright orange notice on the Chen family's door early Sunday morning. It was just one bark when the mail carrier came, Melody said quietly from her mobility scooter on the porch. She stroked her service dog Daisy's golden fur. She's trained to be quiet. Victoria glared at the 16-year-old girl. I don't care if it's a service animal. Rules are rules. No noise disturbances. That's 3 violations this month, $300 fine. But Daisy helps me, Melody tried to explain. Not my problem, Victoria snapped, taking photos of Melody and Daisy with her phone. And that scooter is an eyesore. Keep it inside or get fined for that too. As Victoria stormed away, Melody fought back tears. Her family had moved to Pine Hills just 2 months ago, and Victoria Harrington, the HOA president everyone called Karen behind her back, had targeted them from day one. It wasn't about the dog or even the scooter. Melody knew the real reason. Victoria simply hated that someone with muscular dystrophy had moved into her perfect neighborhood. Melody had muscular dystrophy that made her legs weak, but her fingers were strong and skilled. She was a piano prodigy who could play so beautifully that people often stopped to listen when she practiced with her windows open. Don't let her get to you, honey, Mrs. Chen said, putting her arm around her daughter's shoulders. Some people just have darkness in their hearts. But why me? What did I do wrong? Melody whispered, scratching behind Daisy's ears. Nothing. You did nothing wrong, her father assured her, tearing up the violation notice. Victoria has been targeting everyone who doesn't fit her idea of perfect neighbors. The Ramirez family moved away last month because of her harassment. The conflict with Victoria began with small things: complaints about their moving boxes, citations for their mailbox being 2 inches too tall, warnings about garden decorations. But when Victoria discovered Melody's condition, her attacks became personal and constant. Your daughter and her dog are reducing property values, Victoria had told Mrs. Chen at the grocery store, loud enough for everyone to hear. Special needs families should live in communities built for them, not premium neighborhoods like ours. Mrs. Chen had filed complaints with the HOA board, but Victoria was the president and manipulated the rules to suit herself. Other residents were too intimidated to speak up. Despite all this, Melody found joy in her music. Every evening she played her piano, letting her emotions flow through her fingers. The beautiful sounds carried through the neighborhood, and sometimes people would stop outside their house just to listen. One day Mrs. Chen came home with surprising news. The neighborhood barbecue is next weekend, and the organizer asked if you would perform. They've heard you playing and want you to be the special entertainment. For the first time in weeks, Melody smiled. Maybe if they hear my music, they'll finally see me as a person, not just a girl in a scooter with a service dog. Maybe even Victoria will understand. Every summer, the neighborhood had a big barbecue at Songbird Park. Even Victoria was usually less strict during this event. This year, the event organizer asked Melody to play a short piece on a keyboard they would bring. The community had heard she was talented and wanted to hear her play. Melody was excited. I'm writing something special, she told her parents. Something about belonging. On the day of the barbecue, the weather was perfect. Families spread across the park, children played, and everyone was having a good time. The Chen family came early so Melody could easily move around with her scooter. They set up chairs near the pavilion where Melody would perform. Victoria noticed them right away. She didn't like that they had set up their chairs in a different spot. The seats are over there, Victoria pointed to the crowded picnic tables. Melody's father said firmly, this works better for Melody. The organizer knows we're here. Victoria walked away, but she wasn't happy. As the day went on, Melody made friends. Other teenagers talked with her about music and movies. Children were curious about her scooter and she showed them how it worked. It's like a very slow race car, she joked, making the kids laugh. Victoria watched all this with growing anger. In her mind, the Chen family was drawing too much attention and breaking her perfect neighborhood image. When it was announced that Melody would play in 15 minutes, Victoria went to her car. People gathered around to hear Melody play. The keyboard was set up on a table at the right height for her. Melody's parents helped her move from her scooter to the chair. Melody took a deep breath and began to play. Her music started softly, a gentle melody about new beginnings. As she played, the music grew more complex and beautiful. Everyone stopped talking and just listened, moved by the music. Halfway through her song, Victoria came back. She was carrying a carton of eggs from her car. As Melody's music reached its most powerful part, Victoria pushed through the crowd. "This ends now," she said loudly. Before anyone could stop her, Victoria threw an egg directly at Melody. It hit her shoulder and splattered across her face and the keyboard. People gasped as Victoria threw more eggs, hitting Melody again and again. "Stop your special treatment. Stop breaking all the rules." Victoria screamed as she kept throwing eggs. Melody stopped playing. Egg yolk dripped down her face, into her hair, and onto her clothes. Everyone was too shocked to move. Finally, a young boy named Tommy jumped in front of Melody to protect her. The next egg hit him in the chest. "What's wrong with you?" he shouted at Victoria. This broke the spell. Melody's father grabbed Victoria's arm. Her mother rushed to Melody, who was shaking and covered in egg. "Someone call the police," shouted Mrs. Abernathy, a retired school principal. Victoria struggled and kept yelling, "She's been breaking the rules." Her ramp, her scooter, making everyone change for her. The crowd was now angry at Victoria. People took out their phones and recorded her as she continued to say terrible things about Melody. These videos would later be important evidence in court. When the police officer arrived, he found Victoria still yelling, now held by Melody's father and the event organizer. A circle of people had formed around Melody to protect her. "She attacked my daughter," Melody's mother said with anger and sadness in her voice. "She threw eggs at my disabled child because she hates that my daughter exists in her neighborhood." Victoria was arrested and taken away in handcuffs, still shouting about rules. Videos of the attack spread quickly online with hashtags like #HOA Karen and #JusticeForMelody. News reporters came to the neighborhood the next day. Disability rights groups spoke out against the attack. For Melody, life became very hard. She was physically clean after a shower, but emotionally she was still covered in egg. She didn't play piano for weeks. She had nightmares and was afraid to go out in public. "I don't understand," she told her therapist. "I wasn't hurting anyone. I was just playing music." The district attorney charged Victoria with assault and hate crimes against a person with a disability. Victoria refused to admit she did anything wrong. "I was enforcing community rules," she said in court. The judge replied, "Ms. Harrington, there is no rule that allows throwing eggs at a child." 6 months later, the trial began. By then, many things had changed in the neighborhood. The HOA had new leaders, including Melody's father. The rules had been changed to better support people with disabilities. Melody had slowly started playing piano again, but she couldn't finish the song that was interrupted that day. Victoria came to court every day in nice clothes with an expensive lawyer. Her lawyer tried to say she was just a dedicated community leader who had a moment of bad judgment because of stress. But the evidence against her was too strong. The videos, the witnesses, Victoria's history of targeting the Chin family. And most damaging were emails found on her computer where she called Melody an eyesore and a burden on community aesthetics. When it was time for Melody to speak in court, she chose to walk with crutches instead of using her scooter. "Before last summer, I thought music could reach everyone," she said quietly but clearly. "I believed that if I played well enough, people would see me, not my disability. The day of the barbecue, I was playing a song about finding home, about belonging somewhere exactly as you are." She paused for a moment. "When the eggs hit me, I wasn't just covered in egg. I was covered in shame. Ms. Harrington made me feel that my existence was offensive. That my body was so disgusting it deserved to be publicly humiliated. That my music wasn't enough to make me worthy of being in her community." Many people in the courtroom were crying, but Melody stayed strong. The eggs washed off, but her hatred sank deep. "For months I couldn't play music. I couldn't go to the park. I was afraid to be seen in public. I still have nightmares where I'm trapped at that keyboard while things are thrown at me." She looked directly at Victoria. "I want to ask Ms. Harrington one question. What rule was so important that it justified trying to destroy a person?" Victoria didn't answer. She hadn't spoken to Melody once during the trial. The jury took less than 2 hours to decide. They found Victoria guilty on all charges. 2 weeks later, at the sentencing, the judge spoke to Victoria. "Ms. Harrington, this court has rarely seen a worse case of planned cruelty. You targeted a disabled young person in public, clearly intending to humiliate and hurt her. Your attack wasn't a moment of bad judgment but the result of months of discriminatory behavior." Victoria showed no emotion as the judge continued. "Your actions weren't just an attack on Melody Chin. They were an attack on the basic dignity every human deserves. Considering the hate crime and your lack of remorse, I sentence you to 12 years in state prison. People gasped. The sentence was very strict, showing how serious it is to target vulnerable people. As Victoria was led away, she finally looked at Melody, seeing for the first time not a rule violation but a young person whose life she had tried to ruin with eggs and hatred. 3 years later, Melody Chin sat at a grand piano on the stage of Carnegie Hall, one of the most famous music venues in the world. Her fingers moved gracefully as she played her own composition, Broken Shells. The music had grown from the interrupted melody at the barbecue into something even more powerful. A song that began with fear but ended with triumph. Her parents watched with tears in their eyes, along with many former neighbors who had traveled to New York just for this performance. The community that had once been divided by Victoria's strict rules had become a place that celebrated differences instead of punishing them. After the show, Melody opened a letter that had arrived that morning from the women's prison. Dear Melody, you probably won't read this and I don't expect forgiveness. But after 3 years of therapy, I need to tell you that I listen to your music recordings every day. The prison music teacher brings them. What I did to you was unforgivable. No rule or property value is worth hurting someone like I hurt you. I see that now. You asked me in court what rule was so important that it justified trying to destroy a person. The truth is, it was never about the rules. It was about my fear of differences and my need to control everything. Your music has helped me start to understand what I couldn't see then. That real beauty never comes from making everyone the same, but from the courage to be exactly who you are. With deep regret, Victoria. Melody folded the letter and put it away. She would think about it later and decide if forgiveness was possible. Tonight was about celebrating how far she had come, from a girl silenced by eggs and hate to a young woman whose music reached thousands. As she returned to the stage for one more song, she announced, "This piece is called Beyond Brokenness. It's for anyone who has ever been told they don't belong." Her fingers touched the keys, and the music began, clear, strong, and uninterrupted. In that perfect moment, the final pieces of the past broke away, releasing not bitterness or revenge, but the purest form of freedom. The freedom to create beauty in a world that had once tried to silence her. And somewhere, in a prison recreation room, Victoria Harrington would soon listen to a recording of this performance, her 12-year sentence not just a punishment, but a long, necessary journey toward understanding the damage she had caused with a carton of eggs and a heart full of hate.